Hi, Chris Watkins here from the Seven Hill Group. Thanks so much for watching the video. This is the second in a series about a book by Angela Duckworth called Grit. In the first one we defined grit. In this one I'm going to ask you to take the grit scale, okay, and score yourself. This is not going to be totally straightforward because it's on video and you've got to write some stuff down, but basically you're going to have a series of 10 numbers. I'm going to ask you a question, give you a scale, you write down a number. Another question, give you a scale, write down that number. That is the right answer for you, okay? So strap yourselves in, here we go. Question number 1. New ideas and projects sometimes distract me from previous ones. If that's not at all like you, new ideas and projects sometimes distract me from previous ones. Not at all like you, write 5. Not much like you, write 4. Somewhat like you, write 3. Mostly like you, 2. Very much like you, 1. Question number 2. My interests change from year to year. If that's not at all like you, write 5. Not much like you, write 4. Somewhat like you, 3. Mostly like me, 2. Very much like me, 1. Question number 3. Setbacks don't discourage me. I don't give up easily. Not at all like me, write the number 1, so we change the scale. Not much like me, 2. Somewhat like me, 3. Most like me, 4, and very much like me, 5. Next question. I'm an extremely hard worker. If that's not at all like you, write 1. If that's not much like you, 2. Somewhat like me, 3. Mostly like me, 4. Very much like me, 5. Question 5, well, halfway. I often set a goal but later choose to pursue a different one. If that's not at all like you, 5. Not much like you, 4. Somewhat like you, 3. Mostly like you, 2. Very much like you, 1. Question 6. I have difficulty maintaining my focus on projects that take more than a few months to complete. Not at all like me, 5. Not much like me, 4. Somewhat like me, 3. Mostly like me, 2. Very much like me, 1. Okay, so I hope you're with me still. Question number 7. I finish whatever I begin. Okay, if that's not at all like you, write 1. I finish whatever I begin. Not much like me is a 2. Somewhat like me is a 3. Mostly like me is a 4. Very much like me is a 5. Question number 8. I am diligent. I never give up. If that's not at all like you, write the number 1. Not much like me, 2. Somewhat like me, 3. Mostly like me, 4. Very much like me, 5. Question number 9. I have achieved a goal that took years of work. Not at all like me is 1. Not much like me is 2. Somewhat like me is 3. Mostly like me is 4. And very much like me is 5. And finally, I have been obsessed with a certain idea or project for a short time but later lost interest. Not at all like you is 5. Not much like me is 4. Somewhat like me is 3. Mostly like me is 2. Very much like me is 1. So what happens there is that you should have 10 numbers which you add up and divide by 10. That gives you your grit score. What's interesting about this piece is that there are certain percentiles that Angela through her work has identified of where you fit. So basically if you score the number 5 and you have added all your numbers together, divided by 10, you added 50, divided by 10, you've got 5. That's your grit score. That means everyone's less than you, except for anyone who got 100, who got 5, right? So everybody's below you in that if you've got a 5. Very few people score 5. If you scored right at the other end of the scale, and just 1s all the way through, and you've got 1, then basically everyone else is above you, other than who scored a 1, right? So it's very simple. So here's the averages. If you want to be in the upper 70% of the population who've responded to this, you need to score over 3.0 in your grit score. If you want to be in the upper 40%, you need to score over 3.5. If you want to be in the top 20%, you need to score 3.9 and above. And if you want to be in the top 10% of all people who've responded to this that Angela's collected the scores with, you score yourself 4.2. So I hope you've found a score that you're proud of, but I also hope you can see areas where you might want to improve it, maybe try and get in that top 10% if you're not. That's what the next video is about. It's about the areas and the ways that you can develop grit in yourself, and then the fourth video is about how to develop grit in children, which Angela also talks about. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.